And welcome to an almost complete edition of Ben's Junk. I hate it when that happens. So, this happened on an archive thrifting video I did last October. I about fell over when I saw this box for a GAF 3100S Super 8 sound projector from about 1974, and as it turned out, that's what it was, for $5. Given that this is comparatively recent, it runs on still available, I think, halogen bulbs, so I don't have to rely on new old stock. I like that. And it's got record functions, a PA jack, an auxiliary jack, vari-speed, way more features than my 1968-ish Sears unit, but there's a problem. Some moron yanked the power cord so hard it took the housing with it. And sure enough, it's taken me 6 months to finally get around to fixing it. So this is the GAF, or GAF as I'm prone to calling it, the GAF 3100S Super 8 sound projector. And according to the internet, at least, this dates to roughly 1974. So as you saw in that archive thrifting clip, some putz yanked the formerly detachable power cord out of the back of the projector, taking the entire housing with it. And I got a bunch of comments from viewers giving me suggestions on how to fix it, and some not so polite. But after going through them, a wire splice held together with some heat shrink tubing seemed like the most feasible option. You know what I'm leading up to, right? Montage time!
traseira. Obrigado, cara. Dá só uma olhada nisso. É pra minha garota especial. É muito bonito. É lindo.
So before we do the demo thing, let's give a little rundown of the features of this projector. Now, there is one feature that I have not tested on here, and that would be the audio recording function. Which, of course, there's nothing shaking right now, so obviously that's not going to happen. But the reason I have not tested this is because I only have 2 Super 8 sound reels, neither of which I wish to sacrifice the soundtrack of. And of course, you can't just add sound to any old Super 8 film. It needs that magnetic strip along the side of the film to do that. But if I do come into a film that I'm okay with recording over or that has an unused track, then I'll come back and revisit this. But anyway, this initially came with a microphone, but unfortunately it is long gone. But if I were to test this out, I could presumably just plug any old microphone with an 1/8" plug into here. So like most computer mics, you know. And you can also overdub onto existing sounds. I thought that was kind of interesting. I'd never seen that feature before. And then also you can plug in a record player, tape deck, or what have you to the auxiliary jack. But just know that it's only going to be mono sound. This thing does not do stereo playback. And on top of that, you can monitor your own recordings as you're doing them here. But unfortunately, this little headphone jack only functions during recording. It doesn't do anything for just normal old playback. But this was a little weird. It didn't have the mic anymore, but it still had the cheap, crappy little earbud, single earbud, and at this point, slightly disgusting earbud that I have no intentions of ever wearing. But I thought that was interesting. And you got a VU meter here. As I mentioned, you can only hear stuff as you're recording, and you can only monitor the levels as you're recording. This VU meter does nothing on playback. But below that, we've got an automatic gain control button, so you can switch between AGC and manual. And so there's a limiter of sorts or something like it in there somewhere. And then on another audio note, if you want to bore your friends and relatives with your home movies, but you got a silent film, or you just don't want to record or yell over the projector, you can indeed plug a mic into the PA input. And of course, it'll send your lovely little brain droppings out the speaker, attached or internal, to your probably captive audience. And lastly, we've got a line-out jack for schmucks like me that want to capture a direct feed of the soundtrack. I was amazed at how similar the film functions are to my old Sears projector, which I did a Ben's Junk on a few years ago. But anyway, the frame rates and adjustments are exactly the same as that Sears model. You can click between 18 and 24 frames a second, so 18 for silent and 24 for sound. And you can fine-tune the speed, not as far as I'd like. I can't get it up to almost 30 to do film transfers, but they weren't thinking of that stuff back then. And then the threading and the playback are as close to automatic as you're going to get with a piece of gear like this. And it's actually quite nice. To thread the film, you just click one step forward, you feed the film in, It runs through, comes out the back, of course, and the take-up reel that came with this, I was actually really impressed by. It actually grabs onto the film most of the time, so I don't have to stop and fidget around with it. So, at least theoretically, once you get it going, all you have to do is go one more step forward and you're playing. And then you can go in reverse as well, with or without light. But there is one thing I absolutely hate about this unit, and I say this unit specifically because I think this is more a symptom of the age and condition of this thing. But I really have to crank the knob into the play position. Otherwise, the machine loses grip on the film and you're stuck with the whole jumpy, vibrating film syndrome. But I found that the best remedy for this is to run the film backwards for just a precious few seconds, turn it off, and then give it a good hard crank back into play mode. But aside from that, the focus and zoom and framing are pretty much identical to most 8mm projectors. There just really isn't much to say about it. But at long last, let's take a little field trip and we'll do the demo thing. Yes, I finally broke down and bought a projection screen. I call it the slicer because it's all metal and it likes to snap back at me. It's a little jagged in spots, and the top piece is especially snippy. But we're not here to discuss projection screens, are we? So I've got the projector set up. I've got my camcorder, tripod set up here, so hopefully I don't have to do too much fidgeting. And I've got a copy of the audio running to the CD burner, which is already running. And yeah, it's going to be our trusty old Blackhawk Preview 8 reel again today. But otherwise, there isn't much else to do except finally demo this thing. So it could be interesting with only one hand, but we'll just have to see how it goes. So we'll put it in the thread position. There's the take-up reel running. We'll feed in some film. Hopefully it takes... Yep, lovely. Give a good hard kick into play mode. Hopefully we don't have jumpy film syndrome today. But we won't know till we start, will we? Or do we? Actually, it's looking pretty dang good today. Frame's a little off. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and park it, and I'm going to shut up for today, and we'll close on a little bit of the Blackhawk Super 8 sound preview.
But I'm convinced that the real excitement lies in the future, when you show sound films from your own library to your family and friends. Movies you own and show at home are timeless. You know, even the silent pictures I grew up with come to life with added music and sound. Here's a sample of what I mean, going back to 1917 and Charles Chaplin in The Cure.